Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book-loving, notebook-hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of bookology and leading literate lives. We talk all things books and reading and notebooks and writing, mixed in with mindful practices and creativity to create lives we love. You can expect regular weekly episodes focused on 3 books you need to know about on a bookish theme and how to bring those themes to life in our actual lives too. You can also expect author interviews, notebooking inspiration, and topics to help us grow through what we go through and take inspired action to make our lives better. So grab a notebook and your TBR list and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Get Literate podcast. I'm Stephanie, your host and head bookologist, here as always to explore how reading and writing can make life better. I am so excited to introduce you to our guest today. You know I love books and notebooks, and you know that I think they can change our lives for the better. But what about the role of letters? What about the role of honest conversation? What about printed encouragement elixir from someone who is willing to wholeheartedly listen to the real you and help you become re-enchanted with yourself and your life? Yes, I'm going to say that again because those words are awesome. Here we go. Encouragement elixir in the form of a printed letter on lovely paper, by the way, to help you become re-enchanted with yourself and your life. I mean, sign me up. And that's exactly what I did. I signed up for some encouragement elixir and a re-enchantment letter with Charissa Steyn, and it was an amazing experience that I think everyone should have. And so she's here to tell us all about it. Charissa, welcome to the Get Literate podcast. I am so glad you're here.
Hello, Stephanie. I cannot wait to chat with you about this. And thank you for the nudge.
You are very welcome.
Come on and speak about what I'm doing, even though it's in its infancy. So I'm ready to go.
And I'm excited to be able to help bring it to life at its infancy, because I think there are just so many people who would not believe how one conversation with you and one printed letter, what it can do to how you feel and your spirit. But I do want to back up a bit for listeners, just to give them a sense of how we met. And by met, I guess I should say air quotes, because technically we haven't met in real life, although I do consider Zoom meetings to be in real life right now. But for all the faults that we hear about social media, it really is a wonderful tool to help you find your people. Right? When you actually share the real you, what you like, what you love, what's going well, what's not, what you're working on, other people who feel the same find you. And that's what happened here. I post about books and notebooks and how I use them to make life better. And you have these amazingly beautiful posts, especially about your writing life and how you use writing in all sorts of ways in your own life. And we made a virtual connection. My first Instagram switches to Voxer, it moves to Zoom. We went from likes to comments to real life conversation, which ended recently in the form of that re-enchantment session, which was just so amazing. So I'm so excited to share you and to share your work with Get Literate listeners, because we're all the same kind of people. And I think everyone is going to be so excited. But before we jump into all those things and those wonderful words I mentioned at the top of the episode, I would love for you to give an introduction. Tell listeners who you are and a little bit about you before we jump into all the things.
I'd love to. It's such a big question. Who am I?
No.
I always get a little bit nervous, and then I'm just like, you know what? just going to make it real simple and bring it down to the present and who I am right now, because I have changed and evolved and uh, I am, the first thing that comes to mind is I am a mom of 4 kids. I also love to bike. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will see my, I call it the Whimsy Wagon.
Yes.
It's called a bakfiets in Dutch, which means bucket bike. And basically I haul around my children and my groceries and my library books all around town, and everybody sees me here. There's maybe only a handful of other families that ride these, but I used to live in the Netherlands. And so this is their way of getting around. And so I made that dream a reality and got one here in the States, and it's been amazing. I live in a sweet little town called Bellingham up in the Pacific Northwest, about 10 minutes from the Canadian border. I am a writer. And so if you want to check out all the things I love to write about, which is everything from motherhood to marriage to just my own personal revelations, and I share way too much.
No, no,
But you can
no.
find
No, you
all
don't.
that.
No, you don't.
And that's why I call my blog, I don't call it a blog, I call it a journal. So you can read all that there. I love to write. I love to wake up early in the morning and run. I've been doing that probably my entire life. I'm a big advocate for moving our bodies. So I'm always biking, I'm always walking, taking my kids on little outdoor adventures. I love to drink tea and read books. I can read probably 20 books at once. I don't know how this is going for me mentally. Maybe ask me when I'm older if it's caused me to be really scatterbrained. I don't know, or maybe it will help. But I love to read. And like you, Stephanie, I think that's what drew us together is the books, but just the learning. I love to learn. So I'm just constantly giving myself an education. I would love to go back to school someday, but it's like, well, there's so much we can learn just from podcasts and books, and just everywhere you go, there's so many free things to just, we can learn about whatever we want.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm an avid book hoarder, library goer, podcast listener, and I think that about sums me up for now. Yeah,
We'll dive into more as we get going. Um,
sure.
I love though, because when I think of you and where you live in the Pacific Northwest, I think of some of my favorite books that have the
Mm,
most beautiful settings up where. And so I instantly think of you outdoors and then books and
yeah,
writing. It's
it's
the
very
perfect.
magical here, I must say. The nature is stunning. You can just, it comes with a price about now. What are we in? April. I'm still in my winter jacket
Yeah.
and my gloves and my hat, but it's so beautiful. It's green. It's water 5 minutes away, hikes just right outside my back door, and
Yeah.
trails that I can ride my bike on for miles and miles. It's fun.
And I imagine inspiring and a nice setting for the kind of writing, that you like
Mm,
to do. So I would love to just dive right into writing with you and
yeah.
the role it has in your life, because that is what drew me to your
Mm,
Instagram feed. That is what drew me to you. So I want listeners to kind of understand and know, if they don't know you yet and they're not on your feed,
mm,
the kind of writing that you do is the kind of writing that stops the scroll, right? And it
mm.
isn't it's not the cutesy meme or, your typical, let me just put the best version of what I think my life should look like on Instagram.
Yeah.
hey, this is hard. Hey, this sucks. Hey, this is wonderful. You just go all into all the emotions that all of us have, and then you honestly, in the most beautiful way, put them in your post. And then thankfully you link us
Mm,
to a longer version that we could go
mm,
in your journal. And there's
yeah.
been more than one time, more than two or three or four, or however many times, where I've read one of your posts and I get a little goosebumpy and I look around and I'm like,
Oh, wow.
you know that about me?
Oh.
Did she just say that? Like, and maybe it'll come up in the episode, but there was one post where I thought, wow, someone else thinks this and does this too. Like it was just so freeing to know that you are saying the things I think, but I'm not always sharing.
Mm,
And that
mm,
is what I love about you and your writing. There's just no
Thank
fear.
you, Stephanie.
Yeah, there's no fear. It is all out there, and you can't help but have such a true, real, authentic connection
Mm,
because that's what you're putting out. And it makes people who read your work think, well, hey,
yeah,
I
yeah,
can I can do that too. So I would love for you to talk about your writing, the role it
yeah.
plays. Have you always been a writer who has used writing in this way? Just talk to me about writing because it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, I have to be honest, it's taken me years to be able to call myself a writer. And I think everyone who's a writer knows what I'm talking about. But I have always in some form or fashion written, be it in journals as a teenager, all through my 20s. It wasn't really until my late 20s, early 30s that I started to share that online in a public way. Um, and then it's just been with me ever since. I would say it is the way I process life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I I have journals that I write things in. I go back and forth though between sharing publicly and writing privately. It's just kind of a dance for me. And I think they're both necessary and they're both amazing ways to process life. One isn't better than the other to me. Um, and my goal when I share online is to exactly what you said, Stephanie, to give people those goosebumps of you do that too. Uh, I I want to give people what I wish I had, which is a real glimpse into someone else's personal life. And that sounds kind of nosy or weird or something to some people, but that is how I make connections with people. That is how I I receive encouragement is when somebody else shares with me what they are going through. So yeah, that's what I try to do with my writing. And there's I mean, it looks like I'm super vulnerable online, but I can tell you I have secrets still that I'm like, oh my gosh, if I were to share that, what are people going to think? So there is still a lot more to come. Um, but I do listen to my intuition and really where that creative flow and spark is coming from, and I try to go with it. So if I get a word of like I need to share this, it's like I I sit down and I write it. So in that sense my writing feels very raw. It's not I'm not the kind of writer yet. Maybe in a book one day I'll be more uh I'll think through things a little bit, but a lot of my writing is very intuitive, like and comes from a specific experience or feeling I'm getting. And then I hit publish. And
That's why I love it. That is why
and
I love it because
it bites me in the butt sometimes, Stephanie. It's
I'm
not
sure.
all. right? But that's one thing you've got to get over. When you start sharing words online, you're going to get the Stephanies of the world, and then you're going to get the people that are like, you overstepped.
Yeah.
If there was a line here and you just went over it, and you just have to know in your heart that, well, this is how I show up in the world, and not everybody's going to like what I have to say.
Right.
Obviously, you want to say it in a tactful way, but I just want to be human. That's all. I just want to share my experience and my perspective.
Yeah.
And do it in a way that is hopefully going to bring someone else just a big sigh of relief. Like, oh, okay, I'm okay. I'm normal.
Yes.
I may be crazy, but I've got other people that
Yeah.
are crazy with me. So, yeah.
So when you are writing, and this is just kind of a purely selfish question that now I'm dying to know, because I
Okay.
was curious of how much of your writing is typed and public versus how much of your writing is, in a private notebook. And so I've got to ask, do you have a favorite notebook and writing utensil that you write with? Because I could talk hours about that too. So
Oh, Stephanie, I wish I could give you such a beautiful answer for this. And my answer is, well, here, your listeners won't be able to see this, but I am very, what would you, rugged maybe is the word. So I've got one of these, what is it, a
yes,
decomposition book?
yes.
And I have this I carry this around. I carry two journals around with me. This one I kind of call it's called a commonplace. I heard the name for it. It's called the
Yes.
commonplace journal. And it's basically filled with thoughts. It's filled with quotes that I love, either from books or an email newsletter I got or something I heard. It's filled with rants about a fight I had with somebody,
A little bit of everything.
it's poetry that I want to jot down. I mean, it's the word is rugged. A favorite utensil, it's whatever's lying around on the table.
See, I love that too. I love that. I just love knowing what
So,
kind of lead
yeah,
into.
I think for me, it helps me because that's kind of my vibe. It's like real, just real.
Yeah.
And I get really nervous if I've got like this really nice journal and a really nice pen, and then my handwriting like changes and it's like really perfect. But then I realize my thoughts are kind of similar. Like they're more perfect. They're more like, ooh, what if my child opens this? Whereas this keeps it like, oh my gosh, I have to stick this in my backpack when I leave home because I do not want my husband looking through this.
Yes. Yes. Mine is bound and hidden from everybody.
Yeah,
But there is a sticky note in the front that says, if you find this, it's mom's private thoughts and read at your own risk.
right. You may be surprised.
Right. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
So
It does fit what I was kind of thinking, because
I
writing is
know there's no wrong way to journal, but I don't, yeah, I guess I have a little bit of like, oh, I kind of wish I had more of a fancier approach. But
oh,
yeah,
but like you said,
I swing a little bit more towards writing on my journal online,
mhm,
like more in a cohesive sense, whereas my journals aren't cohesive at all.
yeah,
It's very little nuggets here and there, and
yeah.
yeah.
Which is why you
So
probably need both. You have that
yeah,
balance of both that
yeah,
way.
yeah. But I have like right here beside me, I have a whole bookshelf, and on the bottom is lots of old journals. So
So
yeah,
we've got digital journals that you share with the world. We've got decomposition, all sorts of chaos kind of notebooks that help you
yeah,
just, in the day to day. And then
Mm-hmm.
we have this thing called encouragement elixir in the
Mm-hmm.
form of a re-enchantment letter. Like, I just want listeners to say those words out loud to themselves because they are, I mean, think of encouragement elixir and re-enchantment letters. Just my favorite things about books and reading and learning and the conversations wrapped up into this little package. And
Mm.
I would love for you to talk about how you're writing, how the way you live, the way you think, the way you show up translated into this printed wonderful gift that you give to others. Tell us about this project. Tell us about this work.
Ah, okay. Well, I thought about how it started, and I want to say it was kind of on a whim, but I know it wasn't. It's been years in the making because it is the first time probably in my like adult life that I felt this feels like me. And it flows naturally out of who I am. And so many years ago, about over a decade ago, I got a coaching, um, what do you call it, certification. And I did that off and on for a while and just never really found my groove with it. It just didn't, something about it, I just couldn't find a flow. I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't just fit into that coaching box. And And then something else happened over the last, I don't know, 2 years, maybe. I've noticed something about myself that I love talking to people that I meet out in my day. I just can't help myself. I like start conversations with the most random people. Whether it's at the Y after a swim, or it's in the grocery store, or I'm out on my bike and I keep seeing this couple that walks by me on a certain time, and then we start to get to know each other. I am just fascinated by people, and I love talking to people, and I have always loved encouraging people. And I think that kind of was evident with my writing, but also with my words. When I'm out and about, I just love dropping little compliments to people and words of encouragement, and just to see the way somebody's face changes. When you say a simple thing like, I love your nails, where did you get those done? Or, when you just stop and see someone, and you like, when I say see someone, when you like actually, notice them and ask them a question or just laugh with them, it does something in me and it does something in them. It's just this magic. And so it happens that I have for the past year been racking my brain of like, how do I bring all of these parts that feel so separate in me together? Like writing and coaching and encouraging people and talking to strangers. And um, I think I might have thrown it out there on Instagram one day of like, okay, who needs encouragement? I want to send you a, a word of encouragement, or along with a podcast or a book recommendation that might help you, support you on your journey, whatever situation it is you're going through. And then I just got from there, it just like I started thinking, whoa, like, and this is another thing. I love getting mail. Ever since I was a kid, I was
Yes.
always like, Mom, can I go check the mail? It was like the first thing I did after school every single day. It's like I wanted to go check the mail. It was just so exciting. So you can imagine like email. It's like, oh, I love email. It just feels so magical. But like a letter in the actual mailbox, which rarely happens, sadly now, is so special. And so then I thought about, oh my gosh, what if I become a coach, but I like do coaching through writing, but I'm not actually a coach. I just want to encourage people. because at the end of the day, people have to make their own decisions. I
Right.
cannot make those for you, Stephanie. Like, and what you actually need the most, what I actually want the most is for someone to tell me, Charissa, you are amazing. And I believe in you. And I think your dreams are not crazy. You need to go after them. And so it's like just saying that to myself, it like fires me up. And if somebody else said that to me and somebody else wrote that to me in a letter and sent it to me and I opened it and like, I don't know, the whole experience just feels like, oh, wow. And so this is the way I want those encouragement. I call them an encouragement elixir because it is like this magical potion. Like there is some sort of something that happens inside of us when people encourage us. Simply put, something
Yeah.
happens. And I don't know what it is. It feels like magic. And yeah, so they're called re-enchantment sessions. Go ahead. I'm gonna stop. If you have questions, do you have questions? I'll stop and then
Yeah, no, I will jump in. I want
yeah.
to, as I was listening to you talk about what you love, which is connecting with people and encouraging people, which I know because I read
Mm,
your journal, I read your posts, I have gotten my own dose of encouragement elixir, but it made me think for a second and go back to the very first time that we connected. And that was because you reached out on Instagram to just say, hey, I
yeah.
am a book nerd too. And I really love what you're putting out there. And I
Yeah.
remember that. I remember thinking, I don't know this person. This isn't a friend or a family member. This is a stranger. And I replied back. And then you sent a couple of
Yeah.
voice
Oh
messages
yeah.
that just lit me up. And I happened to be playing those voice messages, the very first ones you sent me. I was in the car, which is always when I listen to voice messages, I think. But I was in the car. My daughter was in the car. And she's like, Mom, do you know her? I said, no, not yet. And she goes, she's really kind. She's saying really nice
Oh.
things to you. And I said, I know I need to know this person.
Oh. I
So
mean,
I
Stephanie,
want
it's like the phrase that came to my mind like a few months ago when I was starting this project was reaching through the screen.
to.
And there's nothing wrong with social media and our phones, but there is something wrong when we don't want to connect human to human. And I think it's right there. All you got to do is you got to reach through the screen. And even in our day-to-day lives, we all in essence have a screen, right? It's like it's not just our phone. We all have these screens. And to be able to reach through just with one little comment, one little hi, how are you? What is your name? Like, what do you love to do? Like, it's just I cannot explain to you how transformative it can be for us, for both people doing that. And I've also dived into the research of like talking to strangers. It is fascinating the power uh, that lies
Yeah,
in talking to strangers. And I say strangers in quotes because it's like nobody stays a stranger that long.
right.
Because I mean, I feel like in a matter of minutes, you can find common ground with somebody.
Yeah.
And it is so special. And it makes to me, it feels like I have so many friends, and I probably don't. Somebody might look at my life and be like, you don't really have a close community, Charissa. I'm like, but I do. I know the lady down here at my grocery store. And I just like talked to this lady at the Y this morning. And I told her all about my issues. And I mean, I'm serious. Like this happened this morning. So it's like, how do we actually define a friend? And I think there's many different definitions, and it's a whole lot more vast than we make it out to be. And I think the world becomes a more beautiful, enchanted place when you feel connected. And that is actually what enchantment means, is living with a sense of the world's aliveness. And so that's the heart of what these encouragement elixirs are, and what these re-enchantment sessions are about, is making us feel more connected. Not just feel, but know that we are connected, that we belong together, and that there's just this, we're in this magical world full of wonder and mystery. And so I know you wanted to get into like, what are these sessions like? But
Yes. Yes,
I'll
I would
stop.
love for us to go there, because you mentioned
Yeah.
this idea of talking with strangers, and that there's research,
Mhm.
on the things that
Yes.
can happen and the goodness of talking with strangers. And I want to point out that for someone who might be saying, "Oh, I want one of these encouragement elixirs. I want one of these re-enchantment letters."
Mhm.
But Carissa's a stranger. Like, am I going to hop on a Zoom call and just pour out my life to someone in 30 minutes?
Mhm.
And my answer is, yeah, you really
Mhm.
will. Because there's something about you that puts people at ease, right?
Mhm.
We hopped on a Zoom call together, and within what, 4 minutes, I was telling you exactly what all of my issues were, and
Mhm.
hopes, dreams, and things that weren't going well. And that is the first time that we ever talked live in person. So
Yeah.
it may feel like talking with a stranger about what your life is like right now might be uncomfortable, but it really wasn't. And I want to stress that to listeners who may be thinking like, what the heck, Steph? You did what?
Yeah.
But it is this sort of instant connection when you open up a Zoom screen and you have someone there who is leaning in and who genuinely wants to talk to you, right? Not
Mhm.
not the guru coach who thinks they can fix you,
Right.
not the stranger who's just going to try to sell you something, but someone who very clearly loves words and loves writing and loves people, who just wants to see you so they can mirror it back. So I
Mhm.
just wanted to say that you're technically a stranger, right? But you're
Mhm.
not
Yep.
really after about 2 minutes on the call. So I would love for you to detail that process,
Yeah.
listeners.
I mean,
They want one. What happens? How's it work?
yeah. Well, just before I get into that, like, one of the things I always write in everybody's letters, I try to write, I know it was only 30 minutes that we had to chat, but there is something, and I believe this with all my heart, that we are all connected in some mysterious way. And I may not know, Stephanie, exactly. I mean, in 30 minutes, obviously, you're not going to tell me your entire life story. I, but we're both human. And I think that comes through so quickly when
Yeah.
we start talking with other people and just holding space and listening actively to other humans. You instantly start to feel this really mysterious connection with another person. It's like we're all kindred spirits.
Yeah.
We just don't recognize it. And so I always try to say that in the letters up front. It's like, I know we just had 30 minutes together, but so much can come through in 30 minutes so much can come through that I am able to write 4 pages of encouragement to you, which sounds
Or try
ridiculous.
11.
Well, the letter itself, the encouragement elixir portion, and this is maybe what you want to hear. It's like the encouragement
Yes.
elixir portion is usually about 3 pages. And then with that, so how it goes is we do a 30-minute session together. And what I open up with, and you know this, Stephanie, is I just tell you this is a non-judgy space. And I simply want you to feel warm and welcome, and um, just just know that share whatever you'd like. And it's perfect for anyone really, because we're all in transition. We're all moving through something at some point. And it may not be big and monumental, but we are constantly evolving and changing, and we need people around us to walk us through those and to just listen. And I know for me, I don't want anybody to tell me what I need to do. I like resist that with everything in me. And I don't want to do that to anybody. This is not a fixing space. It is actually, a lot of times I'll start with, what is the question you are asking right now in your life? What is one of the biggest questions that you have? And there's this quote I love. It says, if you begin with a question and use it to guide an adventure of discovery, that is the work of an artist. And that's by Rick Rubin. And there's just so many, I mean, there's that poem about living the questions. And so I tell people from the get-go, we're not going to discover any answers here. We're just going to explore together your life, where you are at right now. It could be a creative project. It could be a place where you feel discouraged or stuck. It could be you're going through a divorce, or you're getting married, or you're becoming a mother, or the situations are endless. And then we just dive in, and I listen for 30 minutes as you share, and I might offer some encouragement right there on the spot. I'll probably ask a lot of questions, and I'll ask for clarification, and I'll, just have you describe in detail what's going on in your life. And I listen. And then about a week and a half later, you will get in the mail a big giant letter. They're almost too fat to fit into a normal envelope. I don't know what I'm going to do. And my only aim, the only thing I'm trying to do with these, and I write it in every letter, is to encourage you with deep, nourishing words to breathe hope into your heart and offer a bit of perspective. Yeah. And I want people to read these, mark them up, underline them. And just behind the scenes, I've discovered that I'm a bit of it's kind of woo.
I like woo. Go for it.
It's a little bit woo-woo. I don't know exactly what happens, but these words like flow out of me for the other person. And I get these feelings, and I get these pictures, and I get these nudges, and I get these like situations that I need to share. But all of it it's not prescriptive. It's not like, I think you need to go and do this, Stephanie. It's all very encouraging. It's just, I don't know how else to say it other than you will feel seen. And that's a lot of what people are saying, like, wow, like I feel so seen. And it's like weird because I'm like, I don't take credit for that. It's like, there's a place when I can feel it when I'm writing to people. It just turns into this, like, my fingers are like typing and I don't even know what's, where it's coming from. But it's just that I think as humans, there's energy between us. There is this whole dynamic something happening when we step into one another's worlds. That is just really beautiful. And so that's what comes through in these letters. And you will get 3 pages of an encouraging letter, and then you'll get what I call, what do I call them? I've got your letter here in front of me. Poetic and practical potions.
Love the language of this.
It's all around the magic. So the potions are really just this mix of podcasts and book recommendations and quotes, wisdom from other people that I've gathered out of books. And And then I usually include about 3 or 4 poems. And I want listeners to know these are not random. It's not like I just pull up whatever I was listening to that day and like, oh, she'll probably like this.
Right.
No, 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 no. This is something else. And it's like, I don't even know where I got this idea, but it's like this. Well, I do know because I believe we all have our own path. And this is where we get it wrong so many times. Like, and I think we can just follow somebody else's formula. And I think a lot of times well-meaning coaches, the gurus that we look up to, they want to offer us this advice. And it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work for you, Stephanie. You've got to find your own path.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get at when I craft these kind of potions for people. This is a special potion for Stephanie. Yeah. And so I think hard and I use my intuitive nature and I save podcasts on my phone and I have my little bookshelf here and I just cobble together a potion.
Yeah.
It's like,
And
it's such a cool way to see it. It's your own special mix. And I love that it's unique to each person because this is what we need. I do not want someone telling me, just the cookie cutter answers and oh, it's going to be okay. It's like, no, give me some words with meat on it, please. Like that's specific to my soul, the way I tick. And I don't know how this comes through in a 30-minute session, but
I don't know either because
when you share a specific situation and you are listening, it's like you could develop this skill too, I'm sure, where you and I'm sure you do it, you just don't even realize it. You pick up on people's feelings and their personality and just this, the undercurrent is what I call it. I listen to the undercurrent of what's going on in people's lives. And that's where this customized personal letter comes in, and these potions, it's specific to the person. So,
and it is magic. It is magic for the person on the receiving end. And even though I do want to talk a little bit about the letter, but I also want to say that the actual Zoom call itself was just as magical as the letter because you are asking questions, you are listening, and you've got a really masterful hand at wait time so that you keep talking. Or in my case, I just kept talking. And as we were on a call, you were pointing out, like, I was figuring stuff out just in the context of talking to you. So that first call is magical. But I want to convey to listeners the true magic of getting the re-enchantment letter in the mail. And just so they know, you have 2 versions. So you can Zoom with you and then get this beautifully fat stuffed envelope with your re-enchantment letter. Or you could also get the letter with a box with perfectly paired, literal, figurative, like potion-like things, which is what you gifted me, which is this, it's just this letter and this box of stuff. And I opened it and
don't share the secret.
I won't mention it. I couldn't stop just paging through the letter. I couldn't stop looking through the thing. And I just want listeners to know that you are right. This is not a copy paste letter. This is something that you'll read and you will say, she got me. She saw me. How did she figure that out? And what I'm doing, actually what you're doing for me is you are going to actually read aloud the enchantment letter that you sent me. I'm going to put it in my Patreon community so that you can get a firsthand glance of what my letter is. And there is personal stuff in there, but I share a lot on the podcast. And what I loved most about the letter, actually most about the experience, is you named something for me in this season of life that I hadn't been able to name without being negative.
Mm,
And then you come along and you say, you know what? It sounds like you're just in the in between,
mm,
right? No judgment, no
right.
negativity. You're just in an in between. And by the way, it's not a bad place to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
And the letter reminded me of that. It encouraged me. It had specific nuggets of wisdom that
Mm-hmm.
I knew would be paired to me, and they were. And I can't wait for people to actually
Mm.
hear the letter, because it is something special does not do the word justice
It's
at
interesting.
all, but it is.
It's interesting how the written word has so much power. Um, and I think that in a normal like coaching or counseling session, you would never find this. This is where I stumbled upon something that I'm like, oh, I've never seen this. And I love to write and I love to encourage and kind of cheer people on in their journeys and their adventure. And the written word is something you can come back to and you can read it again and certain things will hit you. And it's like having this personal coach with you at any time. Um, and I hear this quote a lot. I've heard it a few times lately of like seeing yourself the way your dog sees you. um, but most of us just don't see ourselves the way we really truly are in the world. And that is just radiant, beautiful, incredible human beings with just the most outrageously wild ideas that need to be acted on. And just if you think, Stephanie, like I think about it all the time, those comments that people have made to you throughout your life that are just almost so random, but they like stick with you forever. I'm talking the good ones.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they literally transform your life. They like you go a certain path because a certain person told you this. And like the power of words and especially the written word, it's something I can't explain. but
Don't
but
have
you know it when you get a letter in the mail from a friend that's just I mean it's more than a like happy birthday card. I mean I can't ever remember getting something like this from somebody, but I mean how incredible that would be to open up your mailbox and get a letter of like, I know you're going through this move right now, and I just want to tell you this is a really emotional time for you. And I just feel there's going to be so many surprises coming up for you. Keep your eyes open. Um, you know, you're going to cry a lot. Moving is never easy, but I just know there's something special on the horizon for you. And I wanted to encourage you with that. Imagine you got a letter like that.
Yeah.
And so
I
it's just,
did. I don't have to imagine. I did get one,
yeah,
and everybody else
it's
can get one.
I hope, I guess what I'm trying to say is I want to make our world more personal, more human. I mean, I get like emotional thinking about this because it's like, oh, we just don't know what people are going through. And it sounds really cliche, but I don't know. There's
But
just so much power in stopping and seeing people and not just offering a glib comment here or there, but like really, you know, even if it's just giving eye contact
yeah,
and saying, I hope you have a really amazing day today.
yeah. It's
It
such a
just
gift.
our world needs more eye contact with one another, more heart to heart conversations with just people that we pass by every day, and just more letters in the mail and
Yes.
less email.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I thought about it too. I was like, oh, I could email letters and maybe, for people overseas. Sadly, I think that's about all I could do, but there's so much in just someone taking the time to think about you
Yeah.
for an hour or two
Yeah.
and or
It,
just a few minutes. It's transformative.
it is.
So
It's transformative. It's special. It's all of the feels, truly
yeah.
all. And I'm so glad that listeners can hear it from you, how it
Mm,
works, what it's about. They can hear it from someone who received one and just couldn't believe the
mm,
gift that ended up in the mailbox. So I will put all the links. We'll talk about where they can find you later, but I'll make sure to put links
yeah.
in comments because I really think everybody needs one.
Oh,
They
I
need
can't wait. I can't wait. I mean, if anything, I hope everybody is encouraged today to just go write. And I know you're doing this. You did this a few weeks ago with your letter writing thing, but like really write a few meaningful sentences to someone and send it to them. Um,
matters.
and I forgot to add a portion of the letter at the end. I don't think we talked about it, is what I call magical invitations just for you. So I usually include 3 different prompts, just little activities. They usually have something to do with nature. Um, and none of them are prescriptive, like I said. It's simply like, hey, maybe you could try this.
Yeah.
And they're more like activation things that you could try. Um, and those are all unique. So I am not sending every person the same 3 prompts.
I
They're
can tell.
each of them is tailored to that person and what they were sharing with me. So
They're beautiful.
yeah.
They're so beautiful. And
Oh,
I
thank
just,
you.
I know listeners are going to just become, pun intended, enchanted with the idea of receiving one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you came on to talk
Oh,
about it, to just put that idea out there, to know what people can get for themselves, because the experience really was unlike anything that I had ever had. But I would love to ask you before we sign off, what are you reading? Can you give us a book recommendation?
oh. Yeah, let's turn a little bit of a corner. I have to tell you what happened to me. By the time this goes live, podcast, it will be over, but I don't know if you've heard about the movie coming out on Netflix called An Idea of You, The Idea of You.
No, I haven't.
Um, I keep all my books listed in a Trello list. The Idea of You by Robin Lee. They made it into a movie, and she wrote it, I think, a couple of years ago. Whew, it's a steamy one, but it is like I'll just say this and you will want to read it. It's a 40-year-old woman who falls in love with a 20-year-old guy. And you will not be able to put it down. Okay. Last night, I'm like, okay, family, goodbye. I need to finish this book. I'm going on a long walk. And I read it in 2 days. So that is my first recommendation. If
Okay.
if your listeners like some steamy romance and also just a woman's, it's really her like wrestling with her own happiness
Mhm.
and really developing trust again in herself as a woman, not just as a mother or a wife. It's, I don't know why, but I cried right at the end and I was just like, oh, my heart, I did not want it to end. It's been a while since I read a book that quickly. Um,
Okay, I will look that one up
I
for
did it
sure.
on Audible as well. So it was excellent on Audible. The author actually reads it. So The Idea of You, and it comes out on Netflix in 2 days. I think May 2nd. It's going to be a movie. Anne Hathaway is the
Oh,
the mom in
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Coming back to
And
me now.
then another one I read is okay. So have your readers dived into Abby? I think it's Jimenez.
Some of us have recommended her books. Yes.
Oh gosh, I discovered her a couple months ago, you guys, and I haven't stopped. I've just burned through all of her books. I must be in some season of my life right now where I need this, like, I don't know, these sweet romance books. I don't, there's something about Abby's books though. I don't know if you've read them yet, but they are not your typical just bunch of sex scenes or anything like this. It is, there's always this deeper, she deals with a lot of complex, just emotional, psychological issues in each of her characters. And so they're just beautiful. I've really loved her books. And the other one that I'd recommend is, where is it on my list? Okay, there's Hereafter by Amy Lynn, a memoir. Stunning. Could not put that one down as
So
well.
good. So good. Yeah.
Woo, that was a good one. Did you read it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And then The Keeper of Happy Endings. Such a lovely, sweet book by Barbara Davis.
That's a new one for me. I can't wait to take
Oh,
that.
it's beautiful. It weaves together just three different stories, and yeah, you'll be surprised in the end. It's lovely. Just all the warm fuzzies on that one.
Oh,
So
I love it.
books are amazing, Stephanie. I mean, there's just they do something to us.
They do. They do. The portable gifts of magic if we just
Oh,
let them be. If we read
yeah.
them, let them be.
It's
Oh,
like, oh, I wanted to say before we end,
yeah.
Zibby Owens had on the author of Idea of You a couple of years ago, Robin, and I listened to it this morning. And this is what she said about her own book, the author. She wept every day for 18 months after she finished that book. That is how involved she felt with these characters' lives. I mean, I was like hearing that, I'm like, oh my goodness.
And that's how we
That
learn.
was the first time I've ever heard an author say that. She just was so involved with this book. It like flowed out of her. It was her. It was like her living in this different life.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't say goodbye.
Wow.
So it's just that was one of the most
Oh,
beautiful things I heard today.
maybe
So
that one has to be the first one I look up. I don't know. I have to make some choices of which the first one is going to be.
I think you should read the
Oh,
book though before you watch the Netflix.
oh,
So
always. That's a life.
yes, always. Okay,
Oh,
Stephanie, we
this
gotta
is a
end.
wonderful. Thank you so much for just coming,
Oh, you're
being
welcome.
real and honest, talking about writing these beautiful re-enchantment letters that I hope everyone will find. Tell us the best place where they can find you so they can get one.
I'll keep it really simple. Go to Instagram. It's Charissa Steyn. There isn't any other one on there. It's Steyn. You'll see it, I'm sure, in the podcast. And then from there, you can find all of the things I write. I share them in an Instagram format. And then you can pop over to my blog if you want to read the longer post. I do a kind of every other week a newsletter on Instagram called Hello Wanderers, where I share just things I'm learning and reading and listening to, and just inspiration to keep you going on your adventure. And yeah, and then you can sign up for a re-enchantment session there. So
Yes.
Instagram is the place.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
today. Thank you for
you're welcome.
just all of it. Your writing, for being you, for putting this out into the world. I'm so excited to be able to be one of the first ones to share
Yes.
with my audience, and just know that I keep my own letter really, really close to me
Tucked under
physically.
your
It's
pillow.
close by to me. And I want to tell everyone again that if you are inside the Patreon community, you'll hear Charissa reading her letter to me so that you can get an even better sense of the encouragement elixir that might end up in your mailbox. Thank you. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome, Stephanie.
And thank you, listeners, for listening to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. And I'll see you again next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. Plus, if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, bibliotherapy book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking challenges, live events, giveaways, and much, much more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content too. You can learn more at getliterate.co. And one more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks for listening.